Nous aimerions avoir des gens de Témiscamingue, des personnes qui ont vécu, pour le 75e, qui ont vécu ici à Témiscamingue.
Oui.
Pour raconter leur histoire, puis peut-être contacter M. Brian Jones ou écrire encore à la même adresse. On ne le répète pas encore assez souvent, mais c'est le début de potpourri. C'est pour cela qu'on vous invite à nous écrire et peut-être un peu plus tard à nous téléphoner.
Oui, c'est ça. Puisqu'on parle de la chronique du 75e anniversaire, ce qui va être intéressant, c'est qu'on demande aux gens qui ont, soit un événement, je ne sais pas moi, je dirais que ça serait...
Un voyage.
Quelque chose qui serait arrivé, qui serait vraiment un voyage, peut-être plus intéressant que... Mais quelque chose, un événement spécial qui serait arrivé à Témiscamingue, ou bien on peut parler d'un lieu, que ce soit, je ne sais pas, moi, quand, un exemple, on parlait justement de ça, quand on parle de la pipe, tu sais, c'est un exemple frappant, là, la pipe. Ben, je veux dire, si on pose la question à des gens ne sauront pas probablement c'est quoi la pipe. C'est un exemple. Quelqu'un pourrait venir nous parler un peu qui ça a l'air, puis avoir des photos. Puis un peu, on pourra en discuter. Fait que ça nous permettrait, je pense, pour ce 75e anniversaire, qui est une date importante pour la municipalité, d'apprendre à découvrir notre région, puis d'apprendre peut-être aussi à être plus fiers encore de notre ville, en connaissant vraiment son histoire, ce qui nous permettra de développer peut-être un Témiscamingue encore meilleur dans le futur.
Tu parles bien, Claude.
Ah oui,
je suis vraiment heureuse, là, en tout cas, de t'avoir comme co-animateur.
Ah, merci beaucoup.
En tout cas, nous vous invitons tous à participer avec nous, comme un jeu interactif un peu, à nous écrire et à donner vos commentaires sur l'émission et peut-être avoir peut-être quelques conseils ou quelques idées de vous.
Oui, bon, on est toujours ouvert à la critique, juste la constructive. On veut pas, on essaie de faire notre possible, mais comme on dit, l'émission devrait être le reflet de la région, c'est-à-dire qu'on va essayer de donner aux gens ce que c'est qu'ils veulent. On a besoin de vos commentaires.
En tout cas, nous espérons que vous passerez une belle semaine et on vous dit déjà à la semaine prochaine. Bonne semaine, Claude.
Bonne semaine, Chantal.
Hello, I'm Gordon Brock, and welcome to another Seasons Around Town. Most of you have, I think, noticed by now that next to the town's war cenotaph on Kippawa Road, there's been placed an artillery piece as part of the town's war memorial. With me today are two of the people who are responsible for bringing the artillery piece here and setting it up to serve as part of the town's permanent war memorial. Two people with me today are Peter McCullough, a longtime resident of this town, and Captain Michael Fitzgerald of Canadian Forces North Bay Base. Hello, Captain Fitzgerald, and thank you for coming down here tonight.
Good evening, Gordon. Thanks very much for having me.
And hello, Peter, and thank you for coming down here tonight.
Glad to be here, Gordon.
I thought we might begin by perhaps asking Captain Fitzgerald to tell us a bit about the artillery piece that's installed.
Okay. That particular gun is a 5.5-inch howitzer. It was developed in Great Britain in the latter part of the 30s, and it first saw action in the North African campaign of the Second World War. It served extensively throughout the Second World War. We in Canada used it at that time, and we kept it in our service until the early 60s when it was replaced by a 102, or the M102, a 155 millimeter howitzer.
So the gun is a World War II era howitzer.
Right.
That was used by the Canadian Forces.
That's correct.
In World War II. What exactly is a howitzer compared to, say, a gun?
A howitzer, in terms of artillery, is a weapon with a medium-length barrel that shoots a fairly slow round at a high trajectory. And so the muzzle velocity of a projectile that comes out of a howitzer is relatively slow, say, compared to an anti-tank gun or something like that.
So in artillery lingo, a gun shoots a shell very, very quickly and very, very flat. In other words, if your target is in the open and you can see it, you would use a gun, whereas a howitzer lobs the shell over.
That's right.
So perhaps if the target was behind a hill or just dug in, or you couldn't quite see them, a howitzer would be the weapon of choice.
That's right. A howitzer is an indirect fire support weapon. So, and exactly as you say, you can't see generally what you're shooting at with a howitzer.
So the gun crew would normally not see what they're shooting at.
No, absolutely not. They would, well, if they do see what they're shooting at, they're in trouble. They receive coordinates from the forward echelons, and those coordinates are then translated, and then they fire onto the coordinates.
So how do they know if they've hit what they were aiming at, or if they've just missed it by 3 miles? How would they know?
Up at the forward lines, there is always an observer, an artillery observer, and he sends back corrections on the fire. So when a shell lands, if it doesn't land on the target, he will then send back correction coordinates.
So there'd be some fellow with binoculars who'd sneak up, and he'd watch where the shell falls, and he would radio back, oh, you missed it by 500 yards to the left, or whatever, and the gun crew would make a correction.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That particular howitzer, assuming the weapon was in a good state of repair and with an experienced crew firing it, what would be the range? How far away could you hit a target with?
The normal range on that gun would be 14.8 kilometers, and the maximum you could fire with it would be 16.5 kilometers. And you use something called a supercharge for 16.5. But 14.8 would be sort of the normal range.
So you could hit a target almost 15 kilometers away. That's close to 10 miles away.
That's right. Yep. Quite easily. Yes.
Quite easily. So in other words, in theory, from where it is now, they could shell Kippawa.
Oh, without a doubt, yes.
Without a doubt. It's quite something. And I take it there would have to be a crew of several men to operate it.
That particular gun has a crew of 10. It was a very large crew in terms of artillery. There would be the det commander, who was the overall command of the gun. There'd be a 2IC who commanded the fuses and the ammunition. The third person would lay the gun. In other words, he put the coordinates into the gun on where it's supposed to fire. You'd have the gun tractor driver, and the gun tractor was just a six-wheel drive vehicle, 5-ton. There would be a limber driver, and he drove around the ammunition, and then the remainder would work on moving the ammunition up to the gun and helping shift the gun around after it fired.
See, and you mentioned that particular piece of artillery dates from World War II.
That's right.
Which is, of course, almost 50 years ago. I take it artillery was quite deadly in World War II.
Oh, very much so, yes.
And with advances, it would be deadlier still today.
Yes, yeah. With the advent of computers and GPS global positioning systems and things like that, it's very, very accurate.
So how has artillery changed since World War II? You mentioned a couple of things. As with most things, there is increased computerization.
Right. Of course, there have been tremendous advances in propellants and shells. The metals that are used in these systems are far more advanced than they used to be. The weapons have longer ranges. With computers, they're far more accurate than they used to be. They can fire greater rounds, longer distances, with greater accuracy.
For instance, with modern artillery firing at a target, say 15 kilometers away, how accurate could they be? I mean, how accurate could artillery be today at a target, say 15 kilometers?
Well, at a target 15 kilometers away, with modern artillery using the computers, if you had a picnic table in the backyard, they could drop it on your picnic table.
They could drop it on your picnic table from 15 kilometers
That's right.
away. A couple of other interesting things. You mentioned this type of artillery was not used, I think, during the Korean War.
No, that's right. We Canadians used what was called the 25-pounder.
It's almost Canada's forgotten war, isn't it? The Korean War. So we hear so much about World War II.
Well, this being the 50th anniversary, I think it's appropriate. But yes, Korea has not probably received the publicity and the veterans the credit that they do deserve.
And some of the people in town may well remember that Canada did indeed fight in the Korean War.
Yes, that's right.
Perhaps, thank you for the information. Perhaps we might switch to Mr. McCullough now, and perhaps you could tell us a bit about how we came about to have this artillery piece sitting in our war memorial.
Well, Branch 18 in Temiskaming had been interested for a number of years in getting a monumental gun or some sort of artifact that we could put on display at the cenotaph as a tribute and to honor the veterans, past and present. And this past June, I got a call from Master Warrant Officer Jim Belanger, who is stationed in Shiloh, Manitoba. He's a former resident of Temiskaming. He's also a member of Branch 18. And he informed me that he was in contact with the Royal Canadian Artillery Museum in Shiloh, Manitoba. And they have, I guess you would call it a finger on all these different artillery pieces throughout the country. And he thought that there might be a chance that we would be able to get one. So we talked it over with the Allegiant executive, and they said, by all means, if we can get one, we should do so. And it took a few months, and it ended up that the gun was located in Valcartier. And the catch was that the Legion had to provide transportation to bring it to Temiskaming. So we arranged that, and I myself personally went down to Quebec City with another chap, and we physically brought the gun up here.
You physically brought it up here?
Well, with a tractor trailer. We had it loaded, and we were fortunate enough to solicit some volunteer labor and activities through Tembec.
It looks like you might need some volunteer labor to load up a thing like that onto a tractor trailer.
Well, it was loaded in Valcartier with a crane, of course, and we backed the a flatbed trailer right into the building, and they loaded it for us, and we secured it and drove it here to Temiskaming. Tembec graciously provided us their crane and an operator to unload it and then to remount it onto the base that it now stands at the cenotaph, which was also a labor of volunteer labor again. We solicited a few of the merchants here in Temiskaming, and they donated a lot of the material, and of course the veterans and Legion members put in the time to see that the gun was mounted. And I'd like to mention that we do not own the gun. It is on loan from this Royal Canadian Artillery Museum on a yearly basis, and Branch 18 agrees to maintain the gun in a presentable manner, I guess, if you will, you know, to make sure that it doesn't end up rusting, and we agree to keep it painted and
So
basically in proper order.
So you will be doing the
Yes,
routine maintenance on it?
we'll look after making sure that it's kept in a presentable manner, and that we're quite proud of it, and we hope the citizens of Temiskaming are proud of it too.
Do you have an idea what it weighs, by the way, Captain Fitzgerald, as far as loading it onto a tractor trailer? I'm just
Oh,
curious to know what do you
About
think it weighs?
that weapon weighs about 6 metric tons.
About 6 metric tons, so that's about 6 times be about 13,000 pounds.
14,000, yes.
14,000
it's
pounds.
Yes, that's right. It's a
That's
heavy,
what
heavy
they-
piece of kit.
That's what they told us in Valcartier when we loaded it. This was basically 6 tons. They didn't have an exact weight on it, but I know that the crane that they did load it onto the flatbed with was straining to get it onto the flatbed truck. So.
And it is completely deactivated.
Oh,
now, I
absolutely.
guess.
That's any weapon that is mounted as a monument must be completely deactivated. There's absolutely no chance that that'll ever fire again.
What do you do to deactivate a weapon of that size?
That particular one has had the barrel drilled out, so all the rifling has been removed. And in addition, the weapons technicians that worked for me came up and, with Peter's help, they welded all of the moving parts. If there was a part that could move, it was welded. And the breech, in addition, was welded and screwed in.
So it certainly is a fitting addition, I think, to our town's war memorial during the 50th anniversary year of World War II. Perhaps you might ask Mr. McCullough if we have any plans yet for the 100th anniversary of the end of World War II.
Well, I don't know if I'll be around for that, but maybe my children will be able to plan something. I'd just like to add that it was through Master Warrant Officer Belanger that he made the arrangements for Captain Fitzgerald and his team of weapons technicians to come in, and we were quite pleased that they came in and did this, and they did a very good job, and we've had a lot of favorable comments from the citizens of Temiskaming in regards to our new acquisition.
We were very happy to be of assistance. Whenever we can, we always like to help out, and this is a very worthy cause, we thought.
It certainly is. The end of World War II is 50 years past us now. The veterans get fewer and fewer every year. Really won't be long now where there may be no more veterans of World War II.
No, unfortunately, the years are passing by.
Years are passing.
Yeah, but a monument like this is a good visual reminder of that, and hopefully that's what this will do.
Visual reminder, perhaps, of the sacrifices made by our fathers, grandfathers, husbands, as it were, so long and so far away.
Exactly.
We're going to take a break for a few minutes, and then I'll be back to speak with 2 veterans of World War II as to their perspectives during this 50th year of celebrations. I'd like to thank the 2 of you for, number 1, helping to bring the howitzer to Temiskaming. I'd like to thank you both for coming down here tonight and telling us about it. So thank you, Captain Fitzgerald.
Thanks very much for having me down.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough.
Thank you very much.
and we'll be back in just a moment with 2 more guests. We're back again now after a brief intermission. I have with me 2 veterans of World War II, 2 veterans who really need no introduction, but they're Mr. Mike McKenzie and Mr. Maurice Losey, again 2 well-known veterans of World War II. Hello, Mr. McKenzie and Mr. Losey, and thank you for coming down here.
You're very welcome.
To share your memories. You both served in World War II on the ground
Right.
in Europe 50 years ago. I believe, Mr. Losey, you were in the artillery.
I was in the artillery, yes.
And Mr. McKenzie, you were in engineers.
Engineers, yeah.
Earlier in the show, Captain Fitzgerald talked a bit about the artillery piece that's in town, but Mr. Losey, you served with real artillery in World War II.
Yes, sir.
What are your memories of World War II?
Oh, some were good, some were bad. We went into the lines at Artona in Italy on the 24th of December. Rain, sleet. You didn't know what kind of weather it was. Everything was wet for 2 months. It was bad, but other times it was good.
So your memory is of rain and
rain, sleet, and
mud,
and we had the self-propelled guns, 105 millimeter mounted on the Sherman tank chassis. They were quite heavy, and if you put them into a plowed field or any kind of a field for gun positions and that, it took you 2-3 days to take them out and get them out, because they had to use very heavy tow trucks and bulldozers and whatnot to pull them out. Because they just belly down, and then the tracks would roll in the mud.
So your memory is primarily of mud and mire, of
Yes.
living in it, eating in it, sleeping in it, working in it.
Yes. Yes.
Somewhat away from our idea of sunny Italy, isn't it?
Yes, that's for sure. The mud was so bad that it was like the brown gravy you would use on a hot chicken sandwich or something like that.
Yeah, it is. And you saw artillery actually in action.
Yes. Before the Polish troops took Casino, our guns and a whole lot of other regiments fired at least 1,000 rounds of per gun.
1,000 rounds per gun.
Yeah. So.
And I guess you had to just manhandle all these heavy shells into place one by one.
Yes, in a way, you didn't manhandle them too much, but you had to keep the gun. Every time the gun was loaded, just fired away, and it was fire at random. It was not on the word fire; it just fire at random.
So just firing the shells as quickly as you can load them in.
Yeah. Yes.
I believe, Mr. McKenzie, you served first in engineers and
Yeah, we served in engineers until we landed in Normandy and went on through France, Belgium, Holland. And north of Holland, we were not enough of us left, so they sent us back to regroup our regiment. And but we couldn't get enough recruits, so they split us up in different units. I ended up with the Royal Canadian Medical Corps.
So you went to the medical corps.
Yeah, I was driving ambulances mostly, and supply trucks till the end of the war. We went right through to Berlin.
Right through to the end.
Yeah.
So you were an ambulance driver, so you were in a position to see some of the worst aspects of war, some of the wounding and the maiming and the
everything,
killing.
everything. Pretty sad situation sometimes.
kind of memories, I bet, that
Yeah.
stick with you for a
I
lifetime.
bet. Sure.
Still with you today.
Yep. It's no fun.
Mhm. As we mentioned, this is the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II. What do you see as the direction of the Legion in the next
The
years?
direction of the Legion in the next few years, I don't know. I think we're declining in membership, and you know, the old veterans are dying off. Younger people are coming in. They're allowed to join the Legion under their father's name and everything, and I don't know how far it's going to go.
So the children of veterans are eligible for
Yeah, they're
Legion.
eligible for membership.
In other words, people in town who did not serve themselves, but whose father or mother, I
Yeah.
guess,
Hmm.
or mother served in World War II or
Right.
some other time, are eligible to apply.
That's right.
Hmm.
So, but I don't know how far that's going to carry the Legion.
Hmm.
I mean, the banner.
So for me, we'll have to see who will carry the banner
Yeah. Yeah.
into the 21st century.
That's right.
With World War II being 50 years old and 1995 being perhaps a year of reflection over what World War II was and stands for, perhaps starting with Mr. Mackenzie, to your mind, Mr. Mackenzie, what are the lessons of World War II? What are the
Lessons are pretty great. I think a lot of the lessons learned was to, you know, get the people back to unity and live in harmony, live in peace. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned during the World War. I don't know what happened in World War One, but I went through the World War II, so I guess there's a lot to be learned.
And from your perspective, Mr. Losey, what would be the lessons of World War II, say, for my generation or younger people who did not live through it? What would be the lessons of World War II to your mind, Mr. Losey?
You know, when I was a lot younger, I was pretty well tied to my mother's apron strings. But I learned to live on your own, or on my own, or what, and learned a lot of things. I learned to boil water the proper way and make a cup of tea like a lot of people have not that ability to do. A lot of men, I should say. I've learned to be a little more tolerant against aggravators and stuff like that and whatnot. I've learned some good lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm pretty well lost.